for you is first, can I just get a reaction to this order from Judge Nelson finding the state $500 per individual per day they wait longer than the 7 days in jail?
We were very excited to receive the ruling on Friday, granting our motion for contempt. It was a real victory for people who are waiting in jail, waiting for court-ordered mental health services.
And I mean, this goes back years, but many of our viewers are wondering how we got here in the first place. The judge said that this is a crisis of Oregon's own making. Can you just explain what she meant by that?
Yeah, so the court upheld this case way back in 2002. And so this has been law of the land for 23 years. And what we've seen is slowly over time, mostly in the past, 5 to 10 years, there haven't been the right amount of actions or commitment to resources to really solve this problem. These are people who are charged with crimes that really oftentimes relate more to their disability than to any sort of criminogenic intent. It's pretty shocking how many people are waiting in jail on charges related to trespassing or vagrancy, loitering, stealing a cupcake, um, and are so ill when they're arrested, they can't even aid and assist in their own defense. So that's why they've been court ordered to go to the state hospital to get restoration services. And so what we're really talking about is some of the most vulnerable, some of the most ill members of our community who really need treatment, not punishment.
And I don't know if you have them on hand or not, but do you have some of these specific numbers about the number of people right now that are waiting for care?
So, according to Dr. Pinels, the court monitor in this case, in April of 2025, there were 46 people waiting in jail on average of 21 days.
And so Governor Kotek said yesterday that she was somewhat frustrated with the fact that the judge didn't wait until the end of the legislative session, as they say they're working on legislation to address this issue. What kind of legislation are they working on right now, to your knowledge?
There is actually some very promising legislation in the works. The other thing that has been really great is seeing the governor and her office step into this space. Amy Baker, in particular, and Casey Liddell from the governor's office are really showing strong leadership in the legislative space. And we hope that this contempt order, if anything, is just another kickstart to let the legislature know that what the governor's office is asking for, what the Oregon Health Authority is asking for, the legislature needs to respond, and perhaps most importantly, needs to make sure that the state has the money to deliver on the promise that they made in this case.
And what kind of actions would you guys like to see the legislature take in the next couple of weeks as we approach the end of the legislative session?
Our first ask is to implement any of the court monitor's recommendations. So she's made recommendations around limiting how long someone spends at the hospital, to put limitations on how long someone can spend in community restoration, and to appropriately fund all of these services. And so, if we also got legislation out of this that really upheld all of Dr. Pinel's recommendations, that would be a sweeping victory on behalf of people with mental illness in Oregon.
And I want to ask you too, I mean, there are some concerns that there may not be money out here for or in the legislature for this. Would you agree with that sentiment, or do you feel like lawmakers will be able to find enough money to provide the necessary requirements to alleviate this situation?
We're hearing some concerns around fiscal impact and how much money there's left to go around. For us, at the end of the day, we're talking about human beings and the human cost of keeping someone in jail. And so to us, there should be money to provide these services. And perhaps more importantly, what we're asking for is for those monies to be spent in less restrictive, more affordable placements. Sending someone at the hospital for a year can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so if we were to divert that money around locked institutions and instead placed it in community placements, that money would stretch further than it currently does.
And some of our viewers who are not really tuned into this may not even know what those community replace or those replacement places are. Can you just kind of describe that for them?
Yeah, in Oregon, we have a really cool process called community restoration. That's where someone doesn't have to be in jail, doesn't have to be at the state hospital. Instead, community mental health providers are providing services ranging from counseling to medication to crisis services. And what we've heard from those community providers is they can serve more people. They just need the money to do it. And so this contempt order and that legislative process together hopefully will get those providers the money they need to serve our clients.
And just for a little bit of clarity too, it not anyone can be sent to these community places too. Is there certain requirements behind that?
Yes, and it's similar to what I said earlier about it's shocking how many people are in jail or at the state hospital on really low level charges. So to be eligible for community restoration, your charge has to be a misdemeanor or less. And again, there's a recognition that this person's behavior is not a threat to the public, but it's a behavioral health. It's a threat to themselves, and they need services to get better.
And then is there anything else you would just like to add about this situation in general, about what you would like to see going forward over the next couple of weeks as we head towards the end of the legislative session, and just anything else you think we may have not touched on that you would like the public to know?
There's two things. First, I really hope this is another motivator for the state to take the right steps so that people can get the treatment when they need it, where they need it. The other thing that I think is really important for the public to know is what we're talking about with restoration services is restoring someone to competency so they can stand trial. I think part of this broken system is many members of the public think when someone goes to the state hospital, they're getting comprehensive mental health treatment. So it's created this perverse misuse of the state hospital when really what we need to fund is the full continuum of behavioral health resources. Charging someone with a crime and sending them to the state hospital actually doesn't fix anything. It breaks more than it fixes. It breaks that person's confidence. It breaks their connection to the community. Sometimes it breaks their housing. We need to stop arresting people for disability related behavior thinking it helps.